Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast brought to you by our friends over at Brier Grieves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, there's nobody better in the business to work with than the good people over at Brier Grieves Insurance. For more information, visit briergrievesinsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. It is a Thursday edition of the Pewter Report podcast, but don't you worry, Bucs fans. It's not our last podcast of the week. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. And it is day 2 of Bucs training camp for the 2025 season. And the fun one for this episode is that we're going to talk about some news that happened before practice, everything that happened during practice. And we're also going to react to some things that were said in the post-practice press conference after practice, most notably what was said by Bucs quarterback Baker Mayfield in holding this Bucs team to an elite standard. And we'll talk about if this team is elite. So a lot to break down on today's show. Shout out to all of the Pewter people watching us right now. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me, my fellow Thursday co-host, Adam Slavon. Adam and I, along with some others on the PR team, Scott Reynolds and Bailey Adams, we're out there once again dealing with the heat, but watching the Bucs participate in practice. And Adam, this one was fun. First of all, how are you? And this one was fun because the fans were in the crowd.
Yeah, Matt, I'm doing great. And it was really exciting because seeing the fans out there, it always adds a little bit more to the atmosphere of training camp. Yesterday, it was pretty quiet and you could hear the defense communicating. But today you heard the Tampa Bay chants and Baker running around making like a little scramble. You just hear the crowd cheering. So it was electric. And there's so much to get into because, as you mentioned, before practice, there was news, during practice, after practice. I mean, everybody out there, make sure you're following pewterreport.com and all the videos and stuff that we have because there's a lot of action to get into.
There was, yes. We had videos yesterday, of course, but then today during warmups, we were able to live tweet during as practice went on. So 11 on 11, 7 on 7s. It was all on Pewter Report's X account. So you can go back and check that out. We also have the write-up of what happened at practice today if you want to read it. And, of course, we'll tell you all about it on today's show. By the way, shout out to some of the people that we saw today, said hello to us. We love saying hi to everyone. Adam, when Baker scrambled on one play, ran for about like 15 yards. It could have been sacked at the beginning, but that's a discussion for another day. It was awesome hearing the pop from the crowd, hearing everybody go crazy when Baker made that play. I love the Tampa Bay chant, as you just mentioned, but I love when they do Tampa Bay a couple of times, and then they'll be like, Atlanta sucks. Like they diss like one of their, or New Orleans sucks, and they'll diss one of their NFC South division rivals. I really like that one as well. But as you mentioned, Adam, there was a little bit of news that happened before practice began. This actually happened late last night. And then also this morning as well, the Bucs were already thin at the offensive tackle position. But now Jason Light and Todd Bowles have more work to put in because it was announced this morning that the Bucs put offensive tackle Garrett Greenfield on the reserved retired list. So Greenfield has officially retired. He played his college football at South Dakota State for the Jackrabbits, and then signed with the Seahawks last year as an undrafted free agent. He was on the Seahawks practice squad and the Giants practice squad. But then still last season, but technically in 2025 in January of this year, he signed with the Bucs and then signed a futures contract with Tampa Bay, participated in OTAs and minicamp and, was at training camp yesterday, but then decided to retire. So I don't know if Garrett Greenfield was really in the running for the offensive tackle backup position behind Charlie Heck. But damn, Adam, the Bucs are dropping offensive tackles like flies, losing another one. And that's why there was also another workout with a new player last night.
Yeah, and a couple of things come to mind when I see the news of Greenfield kind of being put on the retired list. And I find it so surprising and a little bit confusing because after playing 67 games in college, he had 1,809 snaps at left tackle versus 1,450 at right tackle. You would have thought that he would have got more snaps at left tackle, at least be given more of an opportunity to make the team. And so for me, I kind of wonder, like, is his heart still in it? After one day at training camp, he's just like, nah, the Tampa Bay Heat, I can't do it. I don't want to do it anymore. I just found that interesting. And you mentioned the offensive tackle that the Bucs worked out. Now,
Yes.
I find this one interesting, and I kind of think he would be the perfect fit, the perfect kind of signing. And that's Chris Hubbard. He's a 34-year-old offensive tackle. He's a little bit on the lighter side. He's 6'4", 295 pounds. But what he would bring, Matt, is a veteran presence and
Yeah.
just experience. And then he also played with Baker Mayfield. So he had 102 career games under his belt, 61 starts between 2018 and 2020. He had 34 starts. And he was the guy that was brought in on a 5-year, $37.5 million deal to help protect Baker Mayfield when he was drafted. So having that familiarity, he wouldn't cost much. And he has a record of experience that, the Bucs might take a flyer on, veteran minimum contract. It would make sense.
Yeah, it's clear and evident that the Bucs want a veteran offensive tackle to bring into this team. Remember, they tried out and had a workout with George Fant, and now Chris Hubbard. So it won't be shocking at all if either of them end up on the team. You just kind of got to deal with the financials for a little bit. Adam mentioned 61 starts, 102 career games, mostly playing in the AFC North. Began his career with Pittsburgh, spent a lot of time with Cleveland, teammates with Baker Mayfield. Then went to the Tennessee Titans and was on the Giants for a little bit as well. He has mostly played at right tackle. So funny enough, Hubbard began his career as a guard on offense with the Steelers, but then they moved him out to right tackle. He has 3,374 snaps at right tackle compared to 379 at left tackle. Also 224 snaps at right guard, only 9 at left guard, and 31 at center. So odds are he's going to play tackle, but maybe emergency center or something like that could come in. And I just feel right now, and we'll talk about some of the other tackles and the edge rushers that we saw today, because even though this headline is about Baker Mayfield, it was really Yaya Diaby. That was one of the other headlines of this practice and of today's show. The Bucs need some type of veteran presence, because I don't think you can go in really with anyone else at offensive tackle at the moment. Silas Dancy is still on the PUP list. Lorenz Metz is too slow.
Yeah.
Ben Chikuma is just not ready yet to play offensive tackle. Charlie Heck's now your starter. You like Heck as your backup, but there's nothing you can do with Tristan Wirfs out. Raekwon O'Neal has been playing offensive tackle, been so-so. And again, we're only 2 days into practice. There haven't been pads just yet, but it's obvious right away that the Bucs are thin at offensive tackle, and they need to sign someone sooner rather than later. And we might even see 1 or 2 more players coming in for a workout in Tampa Bay.
And that was something head coach Todd Bowles kind of alluded to after practice today, is that it's likely that the Bucs are going to bring somebody in. It isn't just them working out different guys. It's that they're going to have their pick of the different offensive tackles that come in, and they would be coming into a great situation. There's no doubt about it. But for the Bucs right now, having Charlie Heck as a starter, I mean, they're going to put all their faith in him. They're going to say that they believe in him, but they also want to push him. They can't have just Charlie Heck and then nobody else behind him. And that's not to say Ben Chikuma can't be something down the line, but you're asking him on the 3rd day of training camp to be your second string left tackle. Like, you kind of want him to develop more behind the scenes than being pressed into action. So I think you're going to see one of these veteran offensive tackles, whether it's later today, tomorrow, this week, be signed and kind of compete with Heck. That old adage, iron sharpens iron, but especially when the pads come on and you're really dealing with these outside linebackers every day, like Heck, he might get a little bit tired dealing with Diaby for the next few weeks.
Yeah, Diaby, Hassan Reddick, David Walker, Chris Braswell. We'll talk about some of those guys in just a moment. Callie Bucks, a Pewter Report YouTube channel member, says, need an insurance policy even if Heck starts. Correct. This is what it's all about. You hope that Charlie Heck is good enough to go, for the start of the regular season. And that very much seems like the plan. And until that differentiates or alters, that's the plan going in. But you need another answer because we see it all the time. It's happened to the Bucs before a couple of seasons ago when Donovan Smith got hurt, and then the backup coming in for Donovan Smith also got injured in that game. Now, luckily, Smith was able to return for the following game. But if one guy goes down, it is a domino effect at the offensive tackle position, and it's very, very gloomy after that. And that's why we actually saw today Elijah Klein, someone that we spoke about before being so versatile. He was going to take snaps at center. The Bucs drafted him with the late round pick last year. He's an interior offensive lineman. He's slated to play guard. But in the preseason game against the Jaguars, they moved him to offensive tackle because of other injuries going on. It took me a moment, but I was like, wait a second. Is Elijah Klein playing right tackle right now? And lo and behold, he was. Elijah Klein was out there at right tackle. Luke Haggard had kind of bumped inside as well, and Haggard is listed as an offensive tackle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But Elijah Klein, showing his versatility again. I don't know how much to take away from what he did. The offensive linemen aren't in pads just yet, and he just moved to right tackle. But shout out to Elijah Klein for just being a utility guy along the offensive line. And even though he didn't play in the regular season last year, he's really showing his value early on, even if it's just, keeping the ship together with duct tape and gum and all these things so the wood doesn't break apart. At least for one day, Elijah Klein is putting in the work at offensive tackle and, putting in the work really everywhere, and is showing his value in Tampa Bay.
And he was somebody that last year, I remember asking Cody Mauch about, and he's just developing behind the scenes, and he's kind of learning every single offensive line position. So just providing so much value and securing like a 53-man spot, I think is kind of what Klein is doing, and just being so versatile. And I found it interesting that Todd Bowles today, he was asked about some of the younger offensive linemen. You think he would have mentioned maybe Ben Scott, Jake Majors, Ben Chikwuma. No, he mentioned Elijah Klein, and that he kind of changed his body over the offseason to kind of take on some of these different roles. So I think while Heck is starting at left tackle, there's no doubt that Elijah Klein, he's probably the next guy on the bench that would come in should an injury arise.
It seems like that will be the case at the moment. I'm curious. I really want to watch like Chikwuma in an actual game situation, like that first preseason game, or even before that, the joint training camp practice with the Titans, see how he looks there. Jake Majors, I know he's playing center, but if they could just bolster that interior a little bit so you feel better about Elijah Klein maybe slipping out to tackle a little bit just based on the situation that the Bucs are in. But speaking of Charlie Heck, he's been a guy of many, many conversations ever since the Tristan Wirfs injury happened, and we spoke about him yesterday. But we'll talk more about him today because Charlie Heck spoke to us, the media, after practice today. Adam, any big takeaways, anything in particular that stood out to you in this press conference with Charlie Heck?
Outside of him just saying that it's really awesome to be a part of the offensive line room, kind of playing along some of the guys like Luke Gedeke, Ben Bredesen, Cody Mauch.
Yeah.
He also mentioned that Baker's the type of quarterback that you want to block for. And I like that quote. And also, like, real football starts when the pads come on. Like he was talking about today, like Yaya Diaby had a really good day and asked Bowles about the pass rush. And he's like, it's too early yet to really judge what's going on. But it sounds like Heck is up for the challenge come Monday when the pads come on, going up against some of these outside linebackers, edge rushers, and showing how ready he is for the season to get underway. He's going to have the next 5 or so weeks to really get game ready. And you kind of saw him today. He's excited to take on that challenge.
Yeah, it was nice to see how the offensive line, which as we talked about is such a close-knit group and they're tight with everybody, to hear Charlie Heck talk about how open they are and how much they brought him into the fold, even before knowing anything that would happen with Tristan Wirfs, I think was great to see. He said they instantly take you in, help you with any questions. Everybody is hanging out. It's a really good room. You mentioned what he said about Baker Mayfield. Baker's the type of quarterback you want to block for as an offensive lineman. He's the guy that you want to go to war for. Ends up saying that he's awesome as well. One of the big things that stood out to me with Charlie Heck and his press conference is, he's used to being a swing tackle where, one game or one snap, he's on the left side, then he's moving over to the right side and just kind of starting, stopping, getting plugged in whenever the situation calls for it. So he's playing on two different sides. You got to prepare for two different sides and just look at the offense and look at your opponent in several different ways. This won't be the case for Charlie Heck for most of this training camp because he is starting at left tackle, or at least competing for the position at left tackle. And I liked how he spoke about today that he likes that he just only has to focus on one side. He said, I spent so much time every training camp switching back and forth that after a few days sticking with one, it feels more comfortable. I wouldn't say there is a specific one I prefer. I'm sure after a couple, 2 or 3 weeks of this thing, he's definitely going to say the left side of the offensive line where he will be starting at tackle. But whether it's Charlie Heck or any of the other tackles that were participating today, they went through a whirlwind because pretty much all of them had to deal with the menace, the monster that is Yaya Diaby. Sorry, let me say that a little bit better.
Yaya Diaby.
We saw this last year in training camp, then the foot injury came around, so we're hoping that doesn't happen this time around. But Yaya Diaby was a force to be reckoned with today, Adam. Back-to-back sacks, a strip sack of Baker Mayfield later on in practice as well. We talked about what the addition of Hassan Reddick might do for Yaya Diaby, and I get it.
Yeah.
Different situations and things like that throughout the whole practice, but you got to love what you're seeing from Yaya Diaby.
Yaya Diaby put on a show for the fans today. And you mentioned those back-to-back sacks. And what I really liked about that is that completed a 4-play sequence, Matt, where Marquise Watts had a sack. Then Jacob Parrish came out of nowhere and he flew and got a sack. And then Diaby had back-to-back sacks. And he was just all over the place, all over the field today. You saw him early on. He was setting the edge against the run. A lot of times where the running backs, they just had to go inside because they couldn't go and stretch the field horizontally. They had to go vertically because he was right there and just so physically imposing. And he's not even in pads yet. And I remember last year the talk was that it looks like he came out of a lab. He looks like an alien. And he just looks so big. He's so strong. And he's starting to convert those tools into production. You saw that today. And you saw the defense or the offense kind of have to take note because you have Hassan Reddick on one side. And you already know his track record of production. But then you have Yaya Diaby. It looks like he's just getting started, and 2025 is going to be his coming out party.
Let's all hope so, because that changes everything for the defense. And I do want to reiterate, you mentioned it as well, Adam. It wasn't like Yaya was just cherry picking to get sacks today. He was great stopping the run. He was great getting to the outside, doing what his job was on certain plays. He actually lined up in pass coverage.
Yeah.
The one opportunity.
He cameoed?
Yeah, he cameoed in pass coverage. Covering a tight end. It was an incomplete pass. He was right on the tight end. The throw was a little bit wide at the moment. You could see it on social media as well. It's floating, circulating somewhere out there. But Yaya was doing a little bit of everything today. And you know what? I feel like in training camp specifically, we see fumbles from time to time. It's usually with the running back or a wide receiver. I feel like we don't see too many strip sacks because it's, hey, get away from the quarterback. Don't touch the quarterback. Don't even try to bump into him. But Yaya was able to time it perfectly. And also, if the quarterback kind of sees you coming, he'll kind of just drop his hands and pretty much signify that the play is done. But for Yaya to actually reach his hand out there, knock the ball loose, I think Ben Bredesen had to jump on the football at that standpoint. That's what we're looking for, Adam, with these edge rushers. Get the sack, but take the ball away as well. Yaya did that, put that on display, and another edge rusher that we are hoping takes another step this season. Certainly had a good day, set the tone early, and then had another big play late. That was Chris Braswell.
Yeah, so you mentioned Diaby. He had that strip sack kind of at the end of practice during the red zone period. But then the last play of practice was Braswell recording a sack, and he had 2 on the day. He had 1 early on and then 1 late. And you just like to see that growth, him taking that next step this year, because he's in an outside linebacker room where he already kind of needs to prove it in year 2 because the team signed Hassan Reddick. They drafted David Walker. They have Anthony Nelson still kind of in there, steady Eddie. So Braswell, to be anything more than a 4th or 5th outside linebacker, he's going to need to show that physicality that he put on tape at Alabama his last season. And today, he looked the part. And I know Jason Light, he kind of talks so highly of Braswell at the NFL Combine that sometimes for pass rushers, they need that year to develop. I mean, Nolan Smith, that's who he compared him to of the Eagles. He didn't play that much his rookie year. Then you saw him take that jump in year 2. And man, I'm excited to see Braswell when pads come on, maybe making that similar kind of jump.
YouTube channel member Kyle Dugan says Braswell's going to have a big year. # better than Devin White.
That's quite the hashtag.
Yeah, different positions. Devin White was more of an inside is an inside linebacker, where Braswell is an outside linebacker. SEC rivalry, LSU versus Alabama. You know what's funny? I should have known Chris Braswell was going to have a good practice because maybe it was his Instagram story, but there's like a trend on Instagram right now, like post the hardest pick or hardest video from your college career or whatever. And it popped up. It was Alabama, Tennessee. And Chris Braswell had a great strip sack from behind on Tennessee against Joe Milton, who was on the Patriots, got traded, I think.
Cowboys, I think.
Yes, I believe got traded to the Cowboys. And Braswell had the strip sack. Someone else on Alabama recovered it and had a scoop and score. But then it's fitting that Chris Braswell came out today and had 2 sacks. I believe had like the first sack of the game or of practice, which was really good to see. And I do want to reiterate, we're getting excited because we're seeing players that, we want to see step up, or new players coming to the team and making plays, or players kind of picking up where they left off. We also understand there hasn't been pads yet. It's a little bit more geared towards the defense right now. I wouldn't worry about the Bucs offense just yet, whether it's the interceptions from Baker, whether it's, lack of plays by some players. They're running the football a bit. There's only so much we can glean and get from the running game. There's only so much we can pick up. Bucky Irving's been out there. Rashad White's been out there. They'll be fine for the regular season and things like that. But, some of these situations are a little more advantageous for the defensive guys and the offensive guys, especially when it comes to, rushing against the quarterback and stuff like that. Some of the blitzes were helpful as well. Servassier Dennis
he got one
back as well. Yeah, some big moments here and there for the defense. Was there anyone else on defense that kind of stood out to you, whether it was Servassier blitzing, Jacob Parrish got in there as well? Anyone that kind of took your eye?
Yeah, there is one other player that caught my eye, but I just want to say, Matt, to your point, there should be more reason for optimism with this pass rush, because while the pads aren't on, even last year when you look at it and kind of compare it, there weren't as many sacks and just t-shirts and shorts that there are this year. So just so much growth, and seeing guys kind of ball out and take advantage of this time, I think is huge. And another guy taking advantage of his opportunity was Jacob Parrish. He was somebody that really caught my eye, not just for the sack that he had, but covering Payne Durham. And I think it was towards the end zone. There was a rep where he was hanging, keeping up with him. And this is a guy who's 6'6", 260 pounds. So about 9 inches, 70 pounds on Jacob Parrish. But he was still playing really tight coverage. And you saw that physicality that he had at Kansas State that really enticed the Bucs. And I think with his skill set, he's going to make the perfect nickel corner for Todd Bowles' defense.
Yeah, we saw him get some opportunities with the ones. They are moving the guy playing nickel all over. We saw a little bit of Christian Izzian in there. J.J. Roberts was there yesterday, but then was more of a traditional safety today with the 2s and 3s. And Jacob Parrish, I think, is just going to be everywhere. I almost feel like there's not going to be a specific position for him, because he's going to be in several different places. He'll line up at corner. He'll line up in the slot. He's just a ball player. I don't even know if you can define him by one particular position specifically. He's just a ball player and a guy that you really want to have on your side, the same way that you want to have Brier Grieves insurance on your side, especially this time of the year when we get into hurricane season. Unfortunately, we are in hurricane season, but it's important to make sure that you are situated, especially by working with people at Brier Grieves Insurance. If you're a longtime podcast listener, you probably remember the late, great Mark Cook talking about Brier Grieves Insurance. Pewter reports Scott Reynolds has been a Brier Grieves customer for years, and there simply is not a better insurance company in the Tampa Bay area. Visit BrierGrievesInsurance.com to see for yourself. Brier Grieves Insurance is family-owned, and their main goal is helping people. They want to help people find the right insurance policy for you and your family. Whether it's home or auto, boating insurance, or business insurance, turn to Brier Grieves and find out why their personal touch and customer service sets them apart. The days of waiting on hold to speak with an insurance representative that you don't even know are over. With Brier Grieves Insurance, you'll have a relationship with your agent who can answer your questions and advise you on the best policies. As 2 recent hurricanes have shown all of us that live in the Tampa Bay area, there is a cost to living in paradise. Brier Grieves can help make sure you have the right hurricane and flood insurance to make sure you and your home are protected. So visit BrierGrievesInsurance.com today. That's Brier, B-R-I-E-R, Grieves, Grieves, or call their office today at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166, and tell them that Pewter Report sent you. Before we talk about Baker Mayfield, want to give a shout out to a couple of people. First, we want to say thank you to our new Pewter Report TV channel members that have subscribed, joined, or rejoined, or leveled up with Pewter Report TV. So thank you to BC Florida, Stubby Ryan, Zach Jarvis, Mario Thomas, Rich Branham, Christopher R., Marshall Walker, and Animal. Thank you for becoming new subscribers or re-subscribing with Pewter Report TV. We greatly appreciate you for all of that. And we're also going to say thank you to our Pewter Platinum members, a couple that we saw today: Scott Federico, Rachel Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J., Dave Anderson, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel Elrican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zap Brannigan, RP89, Eric McMillan, Connor For Reals, Kevin Thomas, Zach Jarvis, Leighton Carter, The Guy is Gifted, Brandon Riley, Alec Bickler, Nick Dubuque, and Mario Thomas. Thank you all so much for your support of PewterReport.com. Couldn't be doing this without you. Okay, Adam, let's get to Baker Mayfield, number 6 in your programs. Before we get to his press conference, tell me, what have you thought about Baker and his performance? I know it's early, but over the last 2 days of these training camp practices.
It's really hard to say. Like, it's still so early to definitively say he's doing well, he's doing bad. I think he's kind of testing the limits more of Josh Grizzard's offense and kind of getting settled in with the scheme. I mean, today you kind of saw a lot of passes to Rachaad White in the flat, kind of stretching the middle, stretching the seam of the field, kind of experimenting with the tight ends. We could talk about the tight ends a little bit more too, because I thought they had a really good day. But for Baker, I think he's getting settled in and kind of focusing on his goals. He mentioned today that he's really looking to limit the turnovers, but defense is looking to get some more turnovers. So I think what you're going to see there is kind of trying to find a balance. And I think that's where Baker Mayfield's at right now. But I think as camp goes on, you're going to see him get a little bit better.
Yeah, I know some people are concerned with the turnovers that he had yesterday, but I look at it more as, like you mentioned a little bit, just I look at it more as seeing what he can get away with it, understanding circumstance and situation. Like, this is training camp. You got to see, hey, can I push the envelope here, or should I not bother with it at all? And that is a little bit of the situation that he's looking at. We also should note, Mike Evans warmed up today and said hello to the fans and everything like that, but he didn't participate in 7-on-7s or 11-on-11. So Baker didn't have Mike, didn't have Chris Godwin. So once you take those two out of the equation, still a lot of talent, Jalen McMillan, Egbuka, but it's not like he had his top 2 guys going on the afternoon. But we did get to speak to Baker after practice during a press conference. A little bit more of a lengthy press conference with Baker today. I mean, we get him every week during the season, and it was the first time we've had him in 6 weeks or however long it's been since OTAs. And Baker's been making the rounds recently. He was on Part of
Yeah.
My Take. He was on the New Heights podcast. And he's obviously very media trained and everything like that. But there was one thing that he said that I think a lot of people have been talking about a little bit. He was asked a question kind of about comments made by Levante David about setting the standard and what this team's potential is. And he said, I mean, we go as him, Levante David, and Mike Evans go. We know we have potential. I think everybody in this building knows that. The roster that Jason Light has built, the chemistry that we have, the standard that head coach Todd Bowles sets each day, elite is the standard. That's the big statement right there. Elite is the standard. We realize that we have had midseason lulls. We have had to scratch late in the year to get into the playoffs. The mindset is the other big statement. The mindset is to be hungry, be killers, and finish it out early. That is whether the games or the season clinching our division. That is the whole mindset when you step onto this field. Again, elite is the standard, and the mindset is to be hungry, be killers, and finish out early. So essentially, Baker Mayfield is saying, this is an elite team. We are too good to play with our food and mess around and be waiting for the last game of the season to punch our ticket into the postseason. And Adam, I absolutely love this from Baker Mayfield because it is, hey, no bullshit, BS, no nonsense, none of that. Let's take care of business. We'll have fun when we can, but let's take care of business and win stuff right away so we don't have to stress in week 18. And I think that's exactly what this team needs with the new play caller and Josh Broussard and a team that has come back together, had fun, but ultimately didn't come close to reaching their goals. And I think even reaching their potential.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you loved what Baker Mayfield had to say today. I put in my notes, Baker Mayfield, ... loved what he had to say in all caps. So you hit it perfectly. And I think what he's saying is now is the time. Like, they have all the pieces. Jason Light went out there. He got all the talent that this team needs. Todd Bowles is making all the adjustments. He's setting the standard. And now it's just time to prove that you're an elite team. If you know it internally, you got to start to show it externally. So I think Mayfield's hyped up. He's fired up. And yesterday, I really enjoyed what Levante David had to say about falling in love with the grind. And for the next month in training camp, all these players are going to be grinding. They're going to be busting their tails off to really elevate the floor of this team. And on paper, like, the floor has been raised. Now it's just how high is the ceiling? And when you look at this team and kind of claiming that elite status, I think right now they're very good. They have elite pieces, but I think over the next month, if the defense can start to perform, get those takeaways, that's going to be the factor that really elevates this team to that status.
So would you say that the Bucs are an elite team, or how many elite teams are there in the league? Or let's stick with the NFC. How many elite teams are there in the NFC?
Right now, I'd say 2. I'd say the Eagles and the Lions, and then probably the Bucs and the Commanders in that next tier.
Interesting. So why wouldn't a team like the Vikings be there? Is it strictly just like the quarterback
change? Yeah, I think they still have to show it. And the Vikings last year, they won so many one-score games. And I think with the way that the NFC North is kind of structured, you have 3 really good teams. You have the Lions, the Vikings, and the Packers. So they're all going to be competing. And I think that'll kind of affect their records. But when you look at the Bucs, they're playing in a division where they should win almost, if not every single game. And I think that'll kind of show in the records.
So Eagles definitely, I mean, they're the defending champs. They have to be an elite team. They did lose their offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. And let's remember, the last time the Eagles made it to the Super Bowl prior to last year, when they lost to the Chiefs 3 seasons ago, they took a step back. That's when the Bucs and Baker beat them in the postseason. They took a step back because they lost both of their coordinators and weren't really able to replace them the way that they necessarily wanted to. Now, they lost Kellen Moore to the Saints. I'm not sure what's going on with the defensive side because I believe Vic Fangio is still there. So
Yes.
Yeah, so he's still there as their defensive coordinator. But you still have to put the Eagles in an elite category. The Commanders, I think, are very interesting because their offense is certainly going to be elite. They do have a defensive coach. Their defense, they had a couple
It's
guys like
older.
Mike Samerstill and Johnny Newton. Samerstill, the defensive back, Johnny Newton, the defensive lineman. But yeah, they're pretty old on their defense outside of like some of those guys. So I don't know if their defense could be elite. The NFC North, it very much feels like, is going to cannibalize each other, with the exception of Detroit. I think, man, it's tough. The NFC North is so interesting, right? Because if Ben Johnson finds the right recipe for Caleb Williams and the Bears offense, that could be a really daunting bunch. We know what the Lions have done, but they're without Ben Johnson now. The Packers have been incredibly competitive over the past couple of years with Jordan Love. Do they take the next step? And the Vikings are the one team that have proved that they can kind of win with any quarterback, whether it's Sam Darnold, whether it's Kirk Cousins. They're going to try to do that again with J.J. McCarthy. The Rams are the team that gave the Eagles, if we skip over the South, because let's face it, everyone's bad except for the Bucs. The Falcons could give a run. I think the Panthers could be competitive, but I mean, let's face it, it's the Bucs in that division. The Rams gave the Eagles their toughest matchup in the postseason. So I would agree. I think I would probably throw the Rams in the elite category as well with the Eagles and Detroit. And let's remember, the Rams have the Bucs number one way or another. But I would probably put the Bucs fourth. And or maybe Commanders fourth, Bucs 5, just based on, the Commanders beat them. But I think the Bucs, there's no doubt about it, they have the potential to be elite. All the pieces are there. It's just, can they prove that they can get out of their own way? Like, you look at that Dallas game last year and things of that nature, and I still think, I don't know if they completely have gotten that out of their system. And that's what concerns me with this team is, how do you not screw yourself over this time around? Because they seem to do that season after season after season. The one time they didn't was the Super Bowl in 2020. So, like, you look at even Baker's first year, there were some turnovers in that playoff game against Detroit. There was a missed kick as well, a rare missed kick by Money McLaughlin. And then we all know what happened in the postseason last year.
Yeah.
How do the Bucs avoid that this year? I don't necessarily know. I understand that they're putting in the work and doing and saying the right things. There's no doubt it's elite, but that's why when Baker Mayfield says these things out loud, hopefully everyone takes the message too.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for the Bucs, I mean, Baker mentioned it, was those midseason lulls where they're losing 4 out of 5 games. Like last year, it kind of hurt because they were without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin, so that affected their ability to put points on the board. But I think when you look at the Commanders game, like Todd Bowles got the message. He's like, okay, my defense does not have that killer identity. We do not have any ball hawks. We can't get off of the field. So I think he did, and the front office kind of did the best job that they could with what they had. I mean, they went out there, they drafted defense heavy. Todd Bowles is making those schematic changes. Now, right now it's all talk. And as you're going to see, like, you got to kind of like words are one thing, but you got to have actions and you got to make those changes on the football field. And so right now you mentioned the Bucs are probably the 5th best team in the NFC. I kind of agree with you and would probably put them in the same category, but that's not to say that they can't be top 3, that the Lions, after losing 2 coordinators, all the injuries that they had, the Eagles may be on that Super Bowl hangover. The Bucs can't climb to the tippy top. And I mean, they have elite pieces. So I think kind of like to close this discussion, I think the Bucs have all the pieces to be an elite team. They just have to prove it.
I think 5th is a starting spot, but they can move all the way to number 1. I wouldn't be totally shocked if that were to occur, if that were to happen to this team. And someone that may play a big role, especially early in the season, helping the Bucs get that number 1 seed, is Emeka Egbuka, who we spoke about him yesterday, and I was more talking about the potential of what he could be. Scott was a little more impressed with him yesterday. I thought he was fine. Today, I think we saw the bulldog that can, not that he was a bulldog, but he was a Buckeye. But that mentality from Emeka Egbuka during red zone, which is a little more slanted towards the offense. He had an awesome touchdown today, which again, if you go on social media, you might be able to find it. Maybe the Bucs will post it as well. But man, he can just float into the air when he has to go after a ball. It wasn't like crazy thrown too high or anything like that, but it was about finding separation in the defense, in this zone defense type of thing in the red zone. And Emeka Egbuka jumped into the air, felt like he was there for 10 seconds, had a nice touchdown catch. And really, McMillan and Egbuka were the guys that Baker was looking at the most again because Mike Evans wasn't out there and neither was Chris Godwin. But it was cool to see Emeka Egbuka score a touchdown in today's practice because it feels like it's going to be the first of many.
The first of many, and you mentioned that he can kind of float through the air. And I just want to say that, like, of all, like, 3 seasons that Baker Mayfield has been in Tampa Bay now, he has not spoke as glowingly about someone, like, coming in as Emeka Egbuka. He was on the New Heights podcast, and Jason Kelsey was asking him, what are you looking forward to about the season? And he was just like, out of nowhere, that Emeka Egbuka, he's the real deal. And then today, again, he's praising him, saying it's fun to have a guy like that. He's just so damn smart. He has a yak potential out the wazoo, and you guys mentioned that on yesterday's show. And so when you see Emeka Egbuka, it's one thing to kind of talk highly of a first-round pick, but he just has that, I don't know, kind of glow or aura about him that you know he's going to be good when the games start to matter. And early in the season, like we talk about the absence of Tristan Wirfs, Charlie Heck holding down one spot. Can he do it? When you look at Emeka Egbuka, can he fill CG's role? I think the answer is yes, and I think you're going to see him pass Jalen McMillan.
I think he'll get by McMillan just for the fact that Egbuka can line up everywhere.
Yeah.
And McMillan is more of a, just line up outside type of guy. And that's totally fine. Like, not every wide receiver can do every single thing. But again, because they play typically 11 personnel with 3 wide receivers and 1 tight end, we're going to see all of them. And when you mix in the fact, as we mentioned before, Mike Evans warmed up today. He didn't participate besides that. He's totally fine. He's just getting scheduled off days and things like that. Todd Bowles spoke about that yesterday with him and Levante David specifically. Well, until Chris Godwin returns, and we don't know when that's going to be, and it's likely that he's going to miss the beginning of the regular season. Again, I said it's likely. I'm not guaranteeing it's going to happen. But on those scheduled days where Mike Evans is not going to be working in the 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s, that means you're getting a lot of Emeka Egbuka, a lot of Jalen McMillan. Somebody's got to work with Baker Mayfield. I'm damn sure every wide receiver wants to work with QB1. Tez Johnson might get a couple more opportunities. We heard Baker Mayfield talk about him today, but we want to see Mike as much as possible, even though I also want him bubble wrapped and just ready to go for the regular season. I want all the fans to get all the interaction with Mike Evans as much as possible, but I kind of look forward to some of the days where it's only McMillan and Egbuka kind of getting most of the reps at wide receiver and the tight ends too. We saw Payne Durham get in the action a little bit. Cade Otton scored a touchdown as well on a throw from Baker Mayfield, and Devin Culp, the Culp of personality, becoming much more of a target as a speedy receiving tight end. Adam, what'd you make of the tight ends today?
Yeah, you mentioned Mike Evans, though, and just kind of having him bubble wrapped. Yesterday, we saw Tristan Wirfs, like, driving around a golf cart, waving to fan.
Yes, he did. He did the royal wave. He was waving like this. Tristan is very much in good spirits. He's on crutches right now, but it's not knocking down his spirit, which that is good to see.
But I'm looking forward to Mike Evans maybe having some of those days where he's just kind of doing that to the fans and letting some of the young wide receivers, take over. But when you look at the tight end group, Matt, I was really impressed with Payne Durham today. I thought that he showed some receiving skills, and he also had a couple really good blocks. And if you haven't read Scott's camp diary yet, I mean, he wants and he prides himself on being a heck of a blocker. That's what Todd Bowles mentioned today, but also Devin Culp. And I think with Devin Culp and Payne Durham, kind of 2 tight ends with different skill sets, you're going to see maybe less of Cade Otton and more of trying to get them involved. And there's so many weapons on offense at Baker Mayfield's disposal, but I'm really intrigued by these young tight ends because while they weren't highly regarded, Durham was a 5th round pick, Culp was a 7th round pick, they have enough ability and potential to really be a factor in the offense.
Yeah, I'm thinking goal line too. Now, Culp's
Yeah.
skill set is probably more aligned for those big plays 30 yards down the field, which you can't get, in goal line. But when you are in goal line, you have a lot of beef up front, a lot of offensive linemen, some tight ends as well. So you could see all three tight ends specifically in those goal line situations. So I like that Payne Durham has kind of carved out a niche as a blocking tight end, while Devin Culp can go and make some big plays. Him and Baker Mayfield connected today, which was cool to see. Maybe Baker got sacked on. I think it might have actually been one of the back-to-back sacks by Yaya Diaby. But again, it was pretty close, and Devin Culp got open down the field. It was about a 30-yard gain if it would have counted. Going across the field, he made a big play yesterday. So Devin Culp is getting highly involved in the offense early on. Again, granted, with everything that's going on with no pads and stuff like that. But it looks like that Devin Culp has really taken a big improvement this upcoming season. Payne Durham, I think, is going to have his role. We know what's going on with Cade Otton, but I'm particularly excited for Devin Culp, what he'll do in this preseason if he can build some time for himself in this offense when the regular season comes around. I'm also very excited about Walk-Ons and the great food and drinks that they have. They got happy hour almost every single day. Tuesday's the big day to go because it's all-day happy hour plus $5 Tito's. You can still go today on Thursday. There's happy hour from 3 to 6, so you still got a little bit over an hour, and then it's 9 until close as well. Pewter Report had our Pewter Platinum member meetup at Walk-Ons what was that, June? Not too long ago.
Yeah.
Was a fantastic time. Simon McCollum showed up. Mike Greenberg, Bucs assistant general manager, showed up as well. Great drink selection, so many options. You can get those domestic pints. Also, fantastic food, boneless wings, the boom boom shrimp, the spinach artichoke dip. The wings were so great. I can't wait to enjoy those again. Eat like a winner and drink like a champ over at Walk-Ons. Check out their 3 locations, one in Lakeland, one in Wesley Chapel, and another in Midtown Tampa, like 5 minutes away from Raymond James Stadium. It's very, very close. Abraham also said, I saw the entire Pewter Report team, said hello to Scott Reynolds. Cool seeing you out there today, Abraham. Is that a picture with Shiloh Sanders?
Yeah, it looks like it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Abraham. Thanks for saying hello. And yeah, thanks to everyone that was out there again today. And yeah, if you're in the area, make sure that you check out Walk-Ons. A couple of last things I want to get into, and then we'll answer some comments as well. What else did I have? Bryce Hall, another big-time play. So close to intercepting Baker Mayfield. Now, remember, Bryce Hall had a pass breakup and an interception yesterday. Today, he jumped the route on the right side, was covering James Houston on the play, wide receiver, number 89, trying to make this team. It was actually a nice play by Houston. It was a good play by Hall, jumping in front, made the catch, but then Houston punched the ball out. Almost oddly reminiscent, Adam, to yesterday when Zion McCollum got the pick on Mike Evans. Mike Evans knocked it out, but then Antoine Winfield Jr. had this insane interception. It was almost similar to that. So good hustle play by Hall, good hustle play by Houston as well, knocking that out. The 2 other ones, nice pass breakups. It was, again, a lot of defensive plays today. Christian Izien, a fantastic hustle play, trying to guard Cameron Johnson, who was in the right corner of the end zone, kind of front corner. It's about like a 20-yard throw, I want to say, from Kyle Trask.
I would say so.
Izien hustled over. Johnson caught it, but Izien essentially tackled Cameron Johnson, knocked the ball loose, incompletion, kind of
taunted.
Kind of taunted and flexed on Cameron Johnson as well. And then the last play of practice, again, more red zone drills. It was 1 against 2 once again. When I say that, I mean Emeka Egbuka against Benjamin Morrison, and jump ball type of situation. Morrison nearly had the pick and ended up being incomplete. But I love these battles between the two. I hope we see more and more and more of them. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, it was cool to see some of the other corners outside of McCollum and Dean start to make plays. And
Yeah.
with Bryce Hall, I didn't really know what to expect out of him coming off the dislocated ankle, out of fractured fibia. But the first 2 days of camp, he has looked like he should be a starting cornerback, making an interception the first day. And today he almost had another one. And you had Benjamin Morrison pictured there. And it was really cool to kind of hear from him after practice. This guy sounds all about ball. What did he do this summer? He's like, I trained and I learned the whole playbook. I got a full grasp of the defense. Don't worry about me. And I think that's music to Todd Bowles' ears. And I think you're going to see him on the field, even though he's kind of in the second team defense right now. He's going to work his way up and kind of be, I think like Zy McCollum, he kind of cross-trained early on. He was playing some safety, playing some nickel.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Benjamin Morrison kind of find different ways to get on the field because he's really interesting as well.
He is. He spoke a little bit about going up against Mike Evans yesterday, said it's everything you want. You can either step up or back down, and I think it's the opportunity. You get to go against a great every single day. You look at the talented receivers throughout the league, and Mike is up there, top 3 every single year for a reason. Talking about picking up the defense, he talked about how OTAs helped, just being able to kind of dip your feet in the water a little bit. The stakes aren't as high. You can make mistakes, but now you're trying to earn a job. For me, I use summer to really get ahead, like you talked about before. I also said on his play the right way mentality, I don't think you get drafted not having that mentality. I think I would be wrong if I didn't have that mentality, and I think that's the mentality that you have to have. That's the mentality that every single defensive back in this room has because we're in the NFL, so we're all competing. We know what it is. Everyone wants to be the best. Everyone wants to compete, but at the end of the day, only 2 or 3 cornerbacks can play. You have to put your best foot forward out here during this training camp and then preseason, then see how it all shakes out. I also think it's very important. Another thing Benjamin Morrison mentioned is that this is the healthiest he's felt since that hip surgery. So it seems like he's not even thinking about it at all. He is completely healed, recovered, not thinking about the hip injury. He said he even landed on it too, I think in OTAs. But he's good to go, and he's making plays out there. Not the crazy interceptions that we've seen from some of the other guys, but if he's getting stops on Egbuka, if he's at least going one-on-one against Mike Evans, I'm so excited for the future of Benjamin Morrison, and it was good talking to him today for sure. Let's get to a couple of comments before we close out the show. Tyler Lavelle says, will we see more or less deep balls with Wirfs out? I mention this every time. At one point, Baker held the furthest air yards on throws. Adam, take this one.
I would say less deep ball. And I was kind of actually going to ask you, Matt, because you did a story about how the offense will kind of adjust without Tristan Wirfs. So I think the first few weeks of the season, even Josh Capo kind of did an article. You're going to see more 12 personnel, kind of 2 tight end sets. And Baker Mayfield, he wants to get the ball out as quickly as possible, kind of decrease the amount of time that he's holding on to it. Because as you saw today with the defense and kind of the defenses that the Bucs are going to face the first few weeks of the season, he's not going to have a lot of time to kind of sit in the pocket, stiff-armed pass rushers that come his way. So I would say less deep ball, but that's not to say that, Mike Evans on a go route, why not chuck it up there?
Right. They will take their shots. There's actually a big moment today. Kyle Trask almost hit Cameron Johnson deep. Slightly overthrown. Now, Johnson is a smaller player. He dove as far as he possibly could. Got his hands on the ball, but unfortunately, it was incomplete. This is where I think Egbuka comes into play. A lot of short passes taken for long yards. And I also go back to what Todd Bowles said yesterday, where, the spot is not going to be given to Charlie Heck, but he is the starter right now until somebody gets signed to this team. But they're going to see what he's good at, what he's not good at, where he can block, where he can't block, and same for the backups behind them who are competing with him. So until they figure that out, maybe we see more screens, maybe we see less screens, maybe he's a better pass blocker than a run blocker. You can rely on the running game a lot too. So I just don't think they're going to put Heck or Baker in harm's way. I do think, the long ball will come a little bit more after Tristan Wirfs returns, but that's fine because they didn't have the deep ball a crazy amount last year, and they were still scoring 30 points per game. And scoring points is the name of the game for the offense. Nathan Elliott says, who will be at practice tomorrow? Talking about the Pewter Report team. All of us.
Yeah,
I think.
again,
Yeah.
we're running it back.
Myself, Scott, Adam, and Bailey will all be there. So if we see you there tomorrow, Nathan, that will be fantastic. Ryan T says, I think we should be setting our sights on the NFC #1 seed, just not the division. Yeah, I think the division at this point is step one. I mean, they've won it 4 years in a row. They have made the playoffs 5 years in a row. They should set their sights a little bit higher.
Yeah, and kind of raise the floor, as we mentioned. And I think the Bucs indoor practice facility is going to run out of banner space if they win another division 5 years in a row. But having your sights set higher, step one, win the division. Step two, be the NFC 1 seed. Step three, really make that deep playoff run. That's something that the Bucs really haven't done since the 2021 season. So to really kind of take that next step under Baker Mayfield, the Super Bowl window is open. You just kind of have to go through that window.
Yeah, for sure. It is there for the taking. It's like that pie on the windowsill. You want to go and
you see the smoke and your feet kind of lift up.
Ed Gain says we will not win without the tackle. Talking about Tristan Wirfs, they have to survive without Tristan Wirfs. We think it's going to be, well, if he's on the PUP list, he's not going to be ready for the beginning of the regular season. It's at least 4 games. I think if the Bucs split and go 2-2 and he's back for game 5, everything's still open for this team. It's a lot of it is survive in advance. Bucs could be 3-1. There was an injury to Jets quarterback Justin Fields today. It was a dislocated toe. Who knows what that's going to look like in week 3? That's the only reason why I bring it up, because they play the Jets in week 3. But there's going to be ups and downs of the season. Hopefully not too many slides for this team, though, because that's what Baker Mayfield talked about, too. And we'll finish with Dr. Nick Rivera. Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
Of course, the Simpsons guy says, the Simpsons doctor, one of them, says Egbuka was a shortstop in baseball. That's why he's so smooth. Yeah, you got to be smooth to play shortstop.
A center fielder too, and grew up a Mariners fan, watched Ichiro Suzuki. So you know that he kind of has watched and seen what it takes to be as smooth, and then also having that range as well.
Callie Bucks, a Pewter Report YouTube channel member, says, great show, guys. Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you so much. Very much looking forward to what Emeka Egbuka can do this season. Reminder for everybody, this is not our last show. So tomorrow we are not, it is Friday. We are not going to have a Pewter Insider. Sorry to our Pewter Platinum and Premier members. We will be having a Pewter Report podcast. We will recap everything that happened from training camp. We're not going to do it at 4 o'clock, though. We're actually going to do it earlier. Check out our social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. We'll have it posted. We are likely going to do it somewhere between anywhere from 12:30 to 2 o'clock, probably 12:30, 1 o'clock. We want to do the show so you guys get almost an instant recap from practice. And hopefully a lot of you will be on your lunch breaks and you're able to watch and stuff like that. Yeah. So we are going to do it a little bit earlier on Friday. That's going to be our plan during training camp for those Friday practices. Try to get them done a little bit earlier. And then if you can't watch until later, it'll still be on YouTube and you can check it out. So tomorrow's podcast will be on slightly earlier, around, let's just say around 1 o'clock. Don't have an official time just yet, but we'll put it on our social media. But you can game plan for around 12:30 or 1 o'clock. Also, just a friendly reminder, on August 4th, a couple of Mondays from now, Tony Dungy is coming back to the show. We had him on last year, and we're going to have him on again on Monday at 4 o'clock on August 4th. So just a friendly reminder about that one. And of course, in the meantime, if you're not already doing so, please follow us on all of our social media. On X, Facebook, and Instagram, we are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on this video as well. Tell us what you think about Yaya Diaby, if he's going to have a monster season, or maybe Emeka Egbuka will win Offensive Rookie of the Year, or let us know what you thought of today's show. So this has been a lot of fun. Thanks to everybody for watching. That'll do it for us. For Adam Slavon, I'm Matt Patera saying, appreciate you all for watching, and we will see you tomorrow, a little bit earlier in the day, for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.